Greetings, sisters. I hope that you are standing in your light and your divinity. And if not, I hope that you're journey to it. My name is Anat, and I'd like to welcome you to my channel, The Essence of a Woman Talk. Today, we're going to be talking about a story. And this story is called Seal Skin or Reflection Soul Skin. And I got this story from Women That Runs with Wolf. And it is a wild type book of so many different old stories that are left behind for women to reflect and resonate a certain part of their life and chapters of their life. And if you haven't got it and you love to read, to empower women, that is a great book. So you should check it out. This story, it takes place in a cold environment, and it's a man that he is very lonely. He's so lonely, and he craves for companionship. And he has been lonely for such a long time. He has cried so much that his tears has made crevices in his face. And at this time, he usually goes to fish at night in his kayak. And while he's you know, at this boat, he hears a melody, a very beautiful, mystical melody, and he gets closer and he hears women singing. And as he gets closer, his boat get closer, he can see these women dancing. They have luminant skin, and on the side he noticed that is a pile of seal skin. Now, in his mind, he goes back to his childhood with the memories of what they told him when he was a child, hearing about these mystical creatures of the sea. And as he looked in awe, and he's just with this image in his mind of these beautiful women in their happiness, in their rejoicing. And as he looked at this image, something came over him, and he goes and takes one of the seal skin and puts it into a bundle, and he hides it in his kayak. So while he's watching these women, one by one takes their skin, puts it on, and then goes into the water. And one stays looking for hers, and the man comes out and startles the woman, and he tells her, "Be my wife." And she answered, "I am not of this world." And he said, "If you become my wife, after 7 years I will return your sealskin." And she reluctantly accepted, and she went with him. And in through these years, in between those 7 years, they had a son, and they call him Uwak. And at this time, as he's growing up, his mother is telling him of stories of beautiful sea creatures that live under the sea in this world. And at nighttime, she would also tell him these stories before he goes to bed. At this particular night, he wakes up and he hears his parent arguing, and he hears his father in rage, and he hears his mother sobbing and talking to his father. And she's saying, "Please, I need this sealskin returned, because with time going by, this woman has lost her eyesight. She is she reaches out her hand to move around the house. She has become very thin. She has lost the lush of her skin. She's very pale, and she's just not herself through these years." So at this particular night, she tells her husband, "It's been this is the 8th year, and I need what was promised and taken from me to be returned. And the father just goes into a rage and tells her, how could you do this? How could you, if I give you this skin, you're going to leave us? And how would you leave me wifeless and your son motherless? You're a very bad person. You're a very cruel person. So he gets upset and he leaves the house, slamming the door behind him. So now the son is in bed. He's upset. He's like, "Oh, my mom is gonna be leaving me," and he's just, sobbing in his room. And he hears a voice coming from the sea, and is calling out his name. And he decided to go see what it is because it's howling in the wind. So he puts on his parka and he gets himself ready to go outside, and he follows this voice and he goes down the cliff. He goes down by the rocks and stuff, and he sees this silver seal standing. He's very huge, and he's standing, and he's laying on the rock, and he sees this bundle in the bottom of the cliff, and he opens it, and inside it reveals a seal skin. He can smell his mother on the skin. So he lifts the skin and he brings it to his face. And he could feel his mother's soul go through him. And he starts to cry because he's feeling everything what his mother is feeling at that moment. And then he does it again and he feels his mother's soul go through him. So he picks up the sealskin and he starts to run towards his mother. And he falls in his mother's arm. His mother's holding him. She's crying. And he returns the skin and she's very thankful. And, he's pleading with her not to leave him. So she decided to, because she told him that she can't stay, but she goes with him by the cliff, by the water side, and she breathes into him 3 times. So she takes him, puts him under her arm. She already has her seal skin on, and she dives into the water. At this time, they both are able to swim in the water. She breathes into him her breath that he's able to breathe in the water. So they swim really down deep in the water, and they come into where her kind is. And her father is there. They're celebrating, eating, and it's just a rejoicing time for her to be united with her father and her people. And the little boy recognizes the voice of the silver seal, which is his grandfather. And they're there talking, they're reminiscing of her life in Topside, but she already knows that she doesn't want to go back, and he cannot stay because he's not part fully of that world, so he has to be returned. So she stays under the water for 7 days with him, and after the seventh day, she has to come up to return him. But within those 7 days, she got back her eyesight. She got back fully to where she was in healing from, from her being in the top side without her skin for so long. And at that 7th day, she returns the boy by the shore and tells him and reassure him that she will always be with him. And the boy goes up and he becomes a young man. He becomes an artist and tells the stories of the mystical creatures that live in the sea. And at times people say they have seen him by the rock talking to a seal. And this story, when I heard this story, it resonates so much. And breaking down the story, the man, the woman seal, and the child is one. The man is depicted as the ego. The ego can be very lonely without the attention and the fully of attention of someone. And and when you plan or you make a move of trying to put him to the side, it gets very possessive and wanting your attention all the time. The woman is represented as the soul, and the child, it is a union between ego and the soul. And the child is able to move in both worlds. And also, the child has a way of calling and even being that innocent as a child to make those questions, to make you think when a child comes. And sometimes I do it on my children, they do it all the time, especially my youngest one, Ewa. She makes me think, and just with a simple sentence or a question, she makes me reflect a lot. Sometimes I'll be like, oh my goodness, I hope Ewa don't come with one of her moments to kind of put me in the spot to go so deep with myself. So the child is the product between the ego and the soul. And at times women through their lifetime gives up or is taking from her, or she allows it, or she surrenders it, and it goes missing, and sometimes they don't even realize it. In my life, I could see where I gave the ego all the attention and starve my soul. When you starve your soul, you become depressed. You have anxiety. You come with so much regret, pain, and different things that comes when you don't feed your soul. And the child is the spirit. Spirit and soul is two different things. And the spirit can nudge you and tell you, you know, this calling, it's your soul is calling, and it tells you that home, to return home, return to where you feel complete and whole. And you have to, in this journey, have to have a good balance between your ego and your soul, and your spirit feeds between these two. Just as everyone has a lower and a higher and a master self within itself. And even the soul has different levels to it. And when we are not aware of it, when we don't aware, because the skin means a covering and seal means docility. And when we don't have a covering, we are exposed. And that covering of us keep us protected by the elements of the outside. And the skin does the same thing. Our skin protects with different things on it, the oils and different, even the hairs on it has a function. The covering of our soul, if we give that up, we become so vulnerable to different energy attacks, different things that happens around us, and we are not able to withstand all those weathering, all those tearing up, and things that we take personally, and different things that affects us. And if we don't have our covering, we are so vulnerable and we get so lost. I have so many women, even myself, that have been lost. And then we have to be in a journey to find self, to find our way home. And they have this book, it's called To See Your Landscape. And it's a compass, and the compass should always point north. And life is that journey. So through your journey, you could think of different landscape that you went through. And you have your inner compass, your intuition, and that guides you. And sometimes we don't listen to that compass. We don't even aware what landscape that we are in that moment. So if we know that landscape doesn't provide happiness, that we need to find a way out. We need to find that map, that inner map, to be able to navigate through our life. So when we as women, we just give it up, and we just get into a very bad situation, a situation that we are so vulnerable to depression, to anxiety, to mental illness. We are so open to those elements that are ready to attack. And I'm really sure, and I'm pretty sure that, a lot of people don't give that intention to hurt one another, but it happens. It happens even when people say, I love you. Some people who say, I love you, is not even understanding the meaning of it, but because we use it so lightly. In this time, in this society, we use that word so lightly, and we don't even understand what it means. We don't even know if we're giving unconditional love or love with condition. So I hope this story reaches to those women that needs to reflect. Do reflect. Did you give away your soul skin? Did somebody took it, and you just didn't realize it, and did you just surrender it, and they just took it? And if it did, and if you feel that they have took it, what are you going to do to reclaim it? Are you going to reclaim it with self-love? Are you going to reclaim it by getting in tune with your compass and finding your way out from this landscape, so that you are able to feel yourself, to be able to have a relationship with self, because now you have to heal from these openness that you had no covering, and now things that you have to heal with yourself, so you are able to be whole, and you be able to now make these choices by being aware, not just going and not being aware that something was missing, or something that you have allowed to be taken away. So I hope that that this kind of opens up and gives you question to self, if you're the sister that could resonate with this story. And I leave this till here. And until next time, I wish you much love, much healing, and great journey. Till next time.